everyone. This is the Parks Academy, where we discuss and celebrate all things theme parks related. We focus mainly on Disney parks and resorts in both Anaheim and Orlando. My name is Paige.
My name is Steven.
And today we'll be kicking off our World Showcase series.
Yes, we will be kicking it off. In the next episode, spoilers, I said we're kicking it off, but we recorded next episodes before this episode.
Yeah,
so I was confusing. Like all over the map. Yeah, this will be great. I'm really excited about this. Just before we introduce our guest and get into it, I have two things that I want to say. First and foremost, I found a picture today of Jack Black on the internet wearing a Pizza Rizzo shirt. That just made me really happy. I don't want to sound like a millennial. It didn't just like make me happy, but it was just funny. It was funny. Also, when I was putting our daughter to bed, first of all, she almost climbed out of her crib for the first time. So we need to like go buy an actual bed for her.
Yeah, that was great.
Because she was like hanging off the side saying, "Daddy, I'm stuck." And I was like, "You are certainly stuck. I'm sorry." I was looking at my phone laying on the ground. And then we were listening to Miss Rachel like we do like every night with her, and just kind of like, kind of getting ourselves relaxed and watching the bedtime one. And they have this song about being thankful. And they like talk about all the things they're thankful for. And I'm thankful for my mom. I'm thankful for my dad who plays with me. And then Aaron, Rachel's husband, at one point says, "I'm thankful for the dog I'll someday have." And I'm like, whoa, that's great. Because I guess they don't want to like exclude kids who don't have dogs. So they're like, maybe someday we'll get a dog. And then I'm thankful for that. And I just think that's tops. So that was all I wanted to say for Front Matter.
That is awesome.
Yeah, it's good stuff.
Why don't you introduce our guest for today?
Okay. So for the Canada Pavilion, we are super excited to welcome to the show our good friend, Brittany Deitrich. She is a two-time Disney college program. For some reason in my notes, I wrote Disney college program person. So
I'll take it.
I'll take it. Cool. So she's done the Disney college program twice. Once she worked at Animal Kingdom. The other one, she worked at EPCOT. We love to see her. We're happy to have her on the show, and we're gonna bring in her expertise about the Canada Pavilion. So thank you so much for coming on and joining us.
Thank you for having me.
All right, Brittany. So before we kick off the history, Steven's going to kind of go through the history and stuff today. I've been asking our guests in this series a few questions. And so I wanted to start with, do you remember your first trip to World Showcase?
Vaguely. I remember being terrified.
Okay.
For some reason.
Wait, wow. What were you afraid of?
I think it was just kind of like the massiveness of it. And at that point in my life, I didn't really understand, like, obviously I knew where I'm from, but like never really immersed myself in other cultures. So I think that was a really intimidating experience for me for some reason.
Yeah.
So, I mean, obviously I love it now. It's my favorite park, but I just remember that one specific feeling of like, I think we started in Canada and then kind of worked our way around, and as we went through those different cultures, and I was just like, this is crazy, and I just fell in love with it. So
that's the only way to start, is in Canada, I think, personally.
Depends on what you're there for.
Do you start in Canada every time, Brittany?
No.
Do you?
I like to start in Mexico. Yeah.
That's my girl.
Yeah.
My thing is, when Paige and I started in Mexico, we got margarita flights, and they were the full-size ones. We'll get to it on our Mexico show, but we were like kind of drunk. By the time that we left Mexico, we had a whole world to encounter. So my thing is, like, I'll just start in Canada, and just like, there's not really any alcohol I want in Canada, I don't think, so
way up to Mexico.
I'd rather work my way up to Mexico and then just like have to be woken up by the bus driver on the bus on my way back to my resort, little newspaper over myself while I'm sleeping.
I went to my
like a degenerate birthday on the subway.
I went to my 21st birthday, and I started in Mexico. It was my older sister and I and her friend, and we're like, all right, we're starting in Mexico. That way we can hit the tequila and then just kind of do all it. And you go through the sake and all that, and kind of end on like the lower notes, like the beer in Canada. That way we weren't like ending with tequila and then leaving the park drunk.
Liquor than beer in the clear. So you're like right. You're doing it right in that regard. That's for darn sure. That's cool. Yeah, I can understand how it'd be like a little bit daunting to go for your first time, because it's almost like cultural whiplash.
Yeah,
exactly.
Going from just so many different places, from like Eastern to Western and everything in between. I guess that's kind of it, huh? There's nothing really middle. It's just East or West. Stupid. All right, so I'm going to go ahead really quickly and just talk about some of the history of Canada before we start talking about some of the more fun stuff. So the Canadian government was approached by Disney when they were going to build this big pavilion here, and one of the things that they were worried about with Disney putting together a pavilion, and frankly, a lot of the other countries were worried about the same thing, was that it was going to become a stereotype of Canada, i.e., like lumberjacks and totem poles and stuff, which is exactly what it is. So funding was actually refused, and Disney threatened to pull the exhibit, but they ultimately didn't, because I guess Disney's like, all bark and no bite. So at one point or another, one of the plans was that they were going to put together, the pavilion was going to be divided in half, kind of like a main street of shops, and it was going to be, one side was going to represent the French Canada, French Canada, and then the other one was going to, we leave everything in the show, and the other one was going to be English Canada. They obviously scrapped that. I think it would have been better, but we'll get to all that. At the opening, the original music talent for the Canadian Pavilion was a trio called the Selodian Pipe Band, and it consisted of 2 pipers and a drummer. Great. Visually, at the center, as we all know, of it's going to be a long show, man, of Canada's Pavilion. We're presented with a Hotel du Canada. I feel like I should say that in like my French sort of accent. And it is inspired by, if I butcher some of those words, just
I don't know any French.
hang on tight. It's inspired by the Chateau Laurier, a historic French Gothic Chateau-esque style hotel located in Ottawa. When I was doing my research, the word Chateau-esque came up a lot, and just like reading Chateau reminds me of Father John Misty, so I keep like singing his songs in my head. But anyway, so throughout the various Chateau-esque styles presented across Canada, we really get, of course, like this really accurate depiction done by Imagineers of like what Canada looks like and some of its old Gothic revival style architecture, and they really chose that because it thought it represented the parliamentary democracy in Canada at the time, so sort of in the 80s. The use of the Gothic revival Chateauesque during Canada's age of railway travel is displayed right in the pavilion, and there are many railway hotels used in this style for its rustic but like tough, sort of brutalist, I guess. I don't know if brutalist is the right word, but that kind of look. And it also serves as a counter to the neoclassical styling of the United States Capitol. So, that is actually one thing that I didn't really think of until later, but like the Capitol and all the terrible architecture in DC is like this white, sort of very rough looking, almost like just like pointy and weird. Whereas like in Canada, it's all like, I know this is probably the wrong term, but it almost looks like a limestone sort of, sort of like I don't know architecture, but it's more like earth tones and stuff instead of a stark white.
Beiges, tans.
Yeah.
Right.
I think it's really beautiful. I mean, they got waterfalls and like the mountains and stuff. It's one of my favorite, aesthetically, it's one of my favorite areas to at least look at and approach.
Yeah, I love the outdoorsy feel of the Canada Pavilion. That's one of my favorite areas to be in, the waterfall.
Mhm.
That, yeah.
And then of course, they have the gardens. So they have the Victoria Gardens that were inspired by but the Butchart Gardens. Again, if I mess this up, I'm not Canadian, so I'm just a humble American trying to get by. In Brentwood Bay, British Columbia, the gardens are a large part and the most labor-intensive gardens in the World Showcase. The original gardens are one of the top tourist attractions in Victoria, once the site of a limestone quarry. Hey, limestone quarry. So I know my stone, baby. Must have been our trip to Pittsburgh. Mr. and Mrs. Butchart brought the tones and topsoil to repurpose an empty pit into their, garden. And so basically, a lot of like some of the gardens and stuff that we see in the Canada Pavilion is naturally based off of that. Thoughts, questions, comments on all that stuff?
Sounds
I mean,
great.
I agree with Paige. It's just a beautiful spot to kind of go and just kind of like hang out. Like being part of the college program, you just kind of had access to just literally just walk around and just hang out and do whatever you really wanted in the park. So
Mm-hmm.
I think when you go way back, there's like a pathway that goes kind of behind the waterfalls. It's just kind of a very nice place to kind of zone out for a few minutes and just like self-reflect personally.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean,
Yeah.
it was a great spot for that.
Yeah, I think it's super relaxing. Epcot to me is not relaxing. It's like a
Right.
lot of walking and a lot of people, but I think that the Canada Pavilion definitely can be a relaxing little hideaway that you don't really get in most other areas of Epcot.
Yeah, I mean, I
Absolutely.
think it can be as relaxing as you want it to be.
Right.
Um, Here's a fun fact about Epcot that you might be sort of, or of Canada, you may not have known. There's not a convenient bathroom in Canada.
No.
Really?
Yeah, remember? So when we were there for Food and Wine just this last year, we were in the rotunda thing, the 360 circle vision experience, having our ciders. Remember, I had to like use the facilities so badly. I was like, I like need to go right this second because I'd been drinking, whatever. You have to basically go over to the UK to find the nearest bathroom, and it is a hike. Like it is really rough. And then when we were there, you called me and you're like, our daughter had a blowout. You need to get back here right now. So I had to like hightail it in the heat all the way back. Do you remember this?
I do.
You remember that?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I remember
No.
waiting with the stroller and
And then I got back finally. I was just like
yeah.
sweating Florida bullets. I don't like that. So it goes. So yeah, of course. And then, as far as the pavilion goes, I think the bigger, marquee features are those big totem poles. They have three native totem poles up to 30 feet in height. Two of them are made of fiberglass, and one is actually carved out of wood. The wooden totem pole depicts three stories of the raven tricking the sky chief into the release of the sun, moon, and stars from a chest. They were all carved by a British Columbian artist named David Boxley, and they were officially put on display in April '98. Displays from throughout Epcot, I don't know why I'm saying Epcot, but throughout the Canadian Pavilion include snowshoes and kayaks, and there are other Canadian cliches that they just can't really seem to break themselves away from there. The stores, we'll talk about them, are full of it. Cast members are wearing it, and even the Disney characters themselves adorn some of the stereotypes of like traditional, Canadian attire. They have like Mickey in a Mountie uniform, and Donald and Goofy in like lumberjack plaid shirts and beaver skin hats. And then you've got like Chip and Dale dressed up as little lumberjack boys, doing whatever it is they do. It's interesting. So it's a cool pavilion, I think. And I still think there's quite a bit to actually say about it besides.
Yeah, I think
I
it's
enjoy that little band.
Yes. Yes, the band is great.
The little lumberjack band, I call them. Awful.
Yep.
But I just loved watching and listening to them.
Yeah, so they are a traditional Canadian folk band. And don't have Alberta Bound, I think is their name. Does that sound right? Besides the fact that I really hit that T hard in Alberta. Yeah, Alberta Bound is the band. So yeah, they're good. I mean, it's fun. I love I think that really adds to the pavilions is all the music and everything that you get with it. Do any of you feel like Canada is kind of like one of the more underrated or overlooked pavilions? Because I kind of do.
I think so too.
Yeah, I think because there's no ride.
Yeah.
And is there only one restaurant? Are there two?
I think just one.
Yeah, so Le Cellier is like the one restaurant. There were some other things, like Beaver Tails was one thing they had there, which is a wild thing we can talk about.
And they have like a quick service too, right there.
Mm-hmm.
Is that where the cronuts are?
Yeah, there's like a number of like basically like
little
traditional
booths.
Canadian little things.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think people just, if they start in Canada, they kind of blow through it because they don't really, maybe they walk through and see the waterfalls and maybe check out the attraction. But I feel like it's just if you've gone the other way, you're like, okay, we're almost done the World Showcase. We're just going to keep going. And if you start in Canada, you're kind of blowing through it to get to the UK. I don't know. That's how I feel. I like Canada. I don't blow through it, but
Mhm. Yeah, I love the attraction there. And I think for me personally, like I used to kind of equate Canada to the US. Just maybe obviously maybe just because they're neighbor to the north, but like I just had never been there, so I really experienced that culture. So I made probably the very wrong assumption of saying that they kind of were similar to us.
yeah.
So I mean that's why one of the reasons why it's one of my favorites to kind of go and experience, because when you talk to all the cast members who are obviously from Canada,
Mm.
and it's just again you're immersing that stuff in that culture. So I think it's definitely one of the underrated ones.
Yeah, and I think Canada itself is so diverse. It's so ginormous. And when we think of Canada, we may think of just like Niagara Falls, Toronto, or maybe we
Exactly.
only think of, French Canada. But there's so much to Canada that to try to
Hmm.
encompass it all in one little pavilion, it's like we just get the lumberjacks and the plaid, but there's so
Right.
much to Canada that, like you said, if you interact with the cast members, you'll be able to get and understand more of the culture and immerse yourself in that as a full Canada experience.
So I have a terribly embarrassing confession to make.
Okay.
Here it goes. In my research, I got myself a little bit confused,
Okay.
and I was trying to remember, God, I was trying to remember where I saw two people like doing this Canadian experience and enjoying poutine together. And I was like, is that something you do? And like, did I see like a video of people having poutine together in World Showcase? Like, where the heck did I see this? And there was there was an episode of The Bachelor a couple years ago where we were watching it, right? And for some reason I thought it was Katie Thurston, but she was born in Wisconsin or Washington. No, she was born in Washington, so it wasn't her. I don't know why I thought it might have been her, but it's not. Anyways, it was definitely The Bachelor because it was one of the dates. One of the girls wanted, maybe it was a Bachelor. I don't know who it was, but she wanted the guy to like, experience what it was like to be Canadian. And so she took him to like this room where like all this like super cliche Canadian stuff was.
I remember this.
And
Yes.
she like had him try poutine.
Yep.
And I don't love that. And so, anyways, I was thinking of that. I was trying to think about how that related to our topic, and I was like, it doesn't, except that I guess it's owned by Disney because of ABC.
Yes, ABC.
Do you know who season? Do you remember that? I was literally looking up like Canadian contestant poutine tasting, and that was nothing.
I will. I'll try to find it as you
Yeah,
guys
isn't that
on.
rough though? Like I literally couldn't remember. I couldn't remember whether or not that was something that really happened or
Yep, I think that's hilarious.
yeah.
I love that though.
Yeah, this has been like a recurring thing with Paige and I, where I don't remember if something actually happened in real life or it happened in a dream I had. And
Okay.
I think it's happening so frequently lately that it's starting to like be a cause for concern between the two of us. I genuinely can't. You should see her in front of me. She's like so hyper focused on figuring it out. Did you find it already?
Well, Blake, remember the guy
Yeah.
that I wanted her to pick
Mm-hmm.
was Canadian. So that was my
Was
first
that
thought.
it?
Was
Do
it
you
Blake
think?
and Katie?
Yeah, because she popped into my head. Yeah.
Yeah.
Or eh?
He did.
They do that because I feel like it was a COVID year too, right? Where like
Maybe.
everyone had COVID, so they were doing these weird little like dates on the premises.
I can't remember, but they
It
did a
literally
little
doesn't.
Canada
It
experience.
doesn't make a lick of difference. Oh frick, that was it, dog. That was the one. Yeah, she tried poutine for the first time. I knew it was Katie Thurston. I knew it. Didn't she end up
That's
with
so
nobody?
funny.
Because she
I
got
think
like
they got
tricked.
engaged.
Yeah, but didn't she get like tricked by that one guy who gave her the business toward the end?
Can't remember.
I
Brittany,
think
do you ever watch The Bachelor?
I do. I do. I think I've skipped the past couple seasons. I don't think I've ever watched any of the COVID ones.
Yeah, remember it
But
was the guy kind of toward the end, and like he broke her heart because he just like jerked her around, and then he was like a blonde guy, very handsome, and was like, "I just did this because I want to be on TV," and then bailed.
That has happened so many times. I can't even
so many
remember what
times.
happened that season.
Well, I only watched a little bit of it during this. We're so off the rails, but I only watched it a couple of times with you during COVID season and stuff, so that I remember part of those things,
Yes.
but never again.
but that was a fun season. And you were correct. And it is Disney adjacent because it's owned by ABC.
Yeah, no one make a
There you go.
joke about, oh, Connor's a Disney princess, because that's not a thing. We don't do those jokes anymore. The last time that was funny was when they said Marge Simpson was a Disney princess, and then that was about it. No more.
I remember that.
That was a fun little side story about poutine.
Okay,
It's delicious.
so
It is delicious.
entertainment wise, we have the Trading Post. Okay, so under entertainment, I saw like, this is for real. Entertainment was like shops, which I thought was super funny. They do talk about the Alberta Bound band, and the Trading Post carries like maple leaves, maple syrup, native jewelry, and Anne of Green Gables souvenirs, because that's, what you think of when you think of Canada typically. I guess. So that's part of it there. There is the Northwest Mercantile, and then the Wood Cart. And then as far as like attractions are concerned, they have, previously it was called O Canada, and Circle Vision, the great 180-degree film that was shown within the Canada Pavilion. And now that is called Canada Far and Wide, a full 360 experience, starring, I think, still Martin Short, although I haven't watched it in a while, because the last couple of times we've been to Canada has been Food and Wine, and then it's the Apple Orchard.
Which is my favorite.
It is your favorite.
Right?
Do you want to
I
talk
love
about that
it.
for? You guys want to just jump into that? I mean, it's there's no rules.
Have you been to Food and Wine, Brittany?
Oh yeah, many times.
She knows.
Yeah,
love it.
Apple
We love Food
Orchard.
and Wine.
What do you like to get at the Food and Wine from Canada? Do you have like a go-to thing or a thing that you like that you tried?
I get a little bit of everything every time I'm there. Like I don't go specifically towards one thing,
Sure.
and then I forget what I had last time. I think it was honestly just like either a cider or a beer that I got that I really enjoyed. I forget what exactly it was.
Yeah, they have so many ciders and beers during Food and Wine.
So
It's
many.
hard to keep track. I don't blame
It
you.
really is.
The cider flight was really good. I did that one
Mhm.
last time.
Mhm.
Steven has done both the cider flight and the beer flight on different trips
Yep.
because you didn't want to do the same thing twice in a row.
No,
Smart.
never take the same path twice. I'm trying to think here. Let's look at I don't know what their menu looks like this year I'm trying to kind of pull it up here.
Also, while you're looking that up real quick, I was looking at if that was still the current band that you guys had mentioned. And it looks like from July 12th to August 12th, there will be a Canadian boy band performing in EPCOT called
it.
Ways, W.A.Y.S.
That sucks. Let me see what these guys look like.
Hear the rockin' sounds of these multi-talented musicians hailing from Montreal.
So the first thing that comes up when I Google Ways is Ways Tattoo. Oh my goodness. These guys look like, so first of all, the W in their logo is a butterfly, which I just think is too much. Absolutely too much.
Before you start insulting boy bands, Stephen, Brittany and I have a long history of seeing boy bands in concert.
I'm not criticizing. I'm just saying, like, literally their logo is a butterfly for W.
Like we've been to boy band concerts together, and we've both been to separate boy band concerts.
That's gonna be a soft pass for me. Soft because they could be good. I just don't want to judge yet.
This
Okay.
is so silly. Let's
see here. So Canada right now for Food and Wine, if anyone cares or would like to hear it, they currently have on their menu Canadian cheddar and bacon soup served on a pretzel roll. That's on Emile's fromage montage. And then they have Canadian filet mignon served with mushrooms, Boris black truffle, and sea salt mashed potatoes with a Boursin black truffle and sea salt whipped butter. Both of those actually sound pretty good. They also have a Collective Arts Brewing audio-visual lager. I don't know what that entails. But then they also have a Chateau de Charmes Cabernet Sauvignon from Ontario. Last time I think they may have had maple popcorn, some kind of like a maple popcorn treat, and I wanted to try it, but I never really got around to it.
I think we had looked when we were looking through all of the menu options before we started.
Well,
We were trying to figure out what we wanted to get.
there's a couple of
There's
reasons.
So many things.
One, we made the terrible mistake last time we went. I keep hounding on this, but I feel it in my bones. We spent half a day at EPCOT, half a day in Hollywood Studios, and that's just never again. I can't. That was not worth it. Secondly, we had our baby with us, and so we were very limited on like what we could do because for every 3 stops we made, we had to go make 1 stop at the baby center, which feels like completely accurate because she got hungry. So
that was true.
yeah. Any thoughts on Canada Far and Wide? And we kind of just sort of skimmed over it, but do you have any feelings about it?
I like it. I think it's really fun. I like those 360 experiences. The only thing is because you don't get to sit down. So
Mhm.
you're just like
standing.
standing, right? That's the only thing, but it wouldn't work if you were sitting because you'd have to like completely turn your bodies unless they gave everyone office chairs to spin around.
Now they could do it
Which
like
would be awesome.
That would
Yeah.
be really cool.
they could do it like a planetarium, kind of.
Yeah, but then you still wouldn't be able to see behind you.
Yeah, but they do have like those big planetariums, like for instance, at the Ben Franklin Museum or Institute in Philadelphia. They have like that big old screen and it gives you vertigo. At least it gives me terrible vertigo when I go up there. And it kind of just like encompasses you, but it's, we saw the dinosaur thing there that was
Yeah,
just
it's not completely 360.
yeah, that could work. And then you see Martin Short's big old face on one of those. I think that
I
could
like
work.
it. I think it's fun.
I think it's fun too. I've only seen it one time, and again, that literally all boils down to the fact that I've every other time we've gone is for food and wine festivals, we miss it, which I think is maybe a fault on their end. They could maybe change.
Except that I like that it's this massive air conditioned room to take a break in the heat. Whether it's the show or the Appleseed Orchard, it's worth going in just for the AC.
My favorite thing is that during the apple orchard tastings, when you've completed or when you're in the middle of it, you can actually go toward the exit and there's like little spots to sit and enjoy yourself. It almost feels like the exit of or entrance either to It's Tough to Be a Bug because you're kind of like sort of underground in a cellar. It's nice. That's really nice.
I really liked how like after the show was done, how you went to that. I forget what they like call it now. It used to be masks when we were younger, but they changed it to like that teddy bear. I forget his name, where like the kids can like color it in, like get the country stamp.
Oh,
it's like right after the exit after the show. So I used to always associate, I'm gonna go to the show and then the little kid thing.
Tell me more. I've never heard of this.
So
Duffy the bear.
What was his name?
Duffy
the bear. Yeah. So it's like these cut out like coloring sheets almost on like almost like a Home Depot painter stick pretty much. And you'll go to like each country as a kid or as an adult, because I still do it, and like color a little bit, and you spend time with the cast member and they like stamp the back of the wood stick with like the country. So I mean I have dozens of them up in like all the countries. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's the KidCot spot.
KidCot.
That's what it's called. Yeah.
Yep. So remember we talked about, if you will listen next week, because this was recorded before, but it will be.
Time is a flat circle.
You'll be hearing this in the future. When we talk about the UK Pavilion, we talk about the KidCot stop in the UK where you can meet Winnie the Pooh and friends.
That's right. Yeah,
and the one in Canada is right by the exit.
That's cool. When you were just talking about a bear, I was thinking of like a I don't know. I wasn't thinking of Duffy, Tokyo Disney's big hit Duffy.
Oh yes.
We should do a whole series on like that phenomena
on Duffy,
because Duffy kind of like failed a little bit in the United States, but Duffy is not only prevalent in Tokyo, but he has like a million friends out there too, including like tortoises and sheeps and piggies and stuff. It's a wild scene out there for Duffy. It's crazy,
That's awesome.
Yeah, it's good. Paige is just chortling. So have you ever eaten at Le Cellier, the steakhouse in Canada? How is it? I've never been before and I really want to go.
See,
we're off to a really bad start. We're off to a terrible start. That's what you just
I think I have just had so many steaks within Walt Disney World that the first time I went to Le Tellier, I was like expecting it to be okay. I'm paying all this extra money for this
Mhm.
amazing Disney steak, and it wasn't awful. It was great. It was a good steak, but
Yeah.
I just kind of felt like I just got the same old steak I could get at somewhere at the Grand Floridian.
Got it. Yeah. I mean, I feel
But
like
it's worth it to go.
yeah, I really want to go. I feel like if you're gonna get a good steak in Disney World, um,
If I
Steakhouse
don't like
71 is probably going to be a better option. Maybe I've never eaten there either. I really tried last
Hmm.
time, but we couldn't make it. And I'm sure there's
Hmm.
plenty of great places in Disney Springs too. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, we need to stop going to Epcot during Food and Wine Festival
I know we get filled up.
because the name is slipping my empathetic pregnant mind for my wife. But the French restaurant, I had reservations there because I really wanted to go. We were going around my birthday, and then we just gorged ourselves in Food and Wine. And I was like, I gotta cancel these reservations. So what I
We were
did
so
was,
full
because
we
it was
couldn't.
it was within 30 minutes, and I didn't want to have to eat the fee or whatever it was going to be. I told them, I'm
Hmm.
like, hey, listen, my wife is super pregnant. We can't do this anymore. So I unfortunately have to cancel if I have to pay. And they're like, oh no, you're fine. Don't worry about it. We understand. I'm like, cool, because I was telling the truth. She was pregnant. Um, I
And I
just
was exhausted.
and you were exhausted, but also we were like, what are we doing? Ordering a bunch of food and then going out to eat. Yeah, so you had the steak there. Is there anything else about it that you think is like worth noting or interesting?
I think it is like the arrival experience. I mean, it's nothing super flashy like you have at Be Our Guest, but like
Mm-hmm.
you kind of go through where the gardens are. So you
Yes.
kind of experience that, and it's beautiful all the time. You do a great job with that, and then you kind of go into like you feel like you're going into like a cellar exactly.
Mm-hmm.
And then all the waiters are wearing like the Canadian plaid and all that. So it's just a
Yeah,
great little spot to kind of experience.
that's cool. There's something that stuck with me, and I haven't really had much of an opportunity to talk about it on the show until like right now. But I've always felt like food at Disney is good, but it's like really, really good for theme park food, right? Like even the
Yeah.
sit down restaurants are really, really good for, being at a big resort. But it's not like the best food you'll ever have in your entire life. Like I know a
Hmm.
lot of people will kind of talk up the food and be like, I mean, maybe like some, there's obviously exceptions and stuff in Disney Springs, but for like, all the places to go eat at the resorts or within the parks and stuff, like it's good for where you are. Whereas like if you go to, anywhere else in the United States and find like hole in the wall restaurants or somewhere that's like
Hmm.
actually specializes in serving great food instead of being a stop on on like a destination experience. Um, yeah, you're gonna like there's you can probably just like throw a dart in New York City and find a steak place that might be better. I mean, it's not a
Right.
cut. It's just sort of a probably a truth,
Mm.
you know?
My concern
Yeah.
with spending that much money and going to Le Cellier would be that I don't like steak.
Right.
Yeah.
So would it be worth it for me to go and get like expensive grilled chicken at this place? You know what I mean?
See, I definitely think it's something to at least go once to kind of just experience. But yeah, I mean it's exactly how you just said. It's a steak place, So like they'll have like
Mhm.
the grilled chicken, they'll have the other meals. But well, I mean, it's still all good. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to bash on this restaurant,
No,
but
no,
I
No, no,
mean,
no.
no.
it's just somewhere you have to experience once.
We
Yeah.
appreciate the honesty and we're always willing
Yeah.
to try a place once for the experience. And now I guess here's another question for you because you work in hospitality and you did also
Hmm.
work in hospitality when you were in the Disney College program. Did
Hmm.
you feel like the aspects of the hospitality at the restaurant were also part of the experience of making you want to go and try it?
Oh yeah, for sure.
Because that's what I feel like Disney does well, even in some of their like more mediocre restaurants, is I feel like if you're still getting that great hospitality, it still makes it worth going, even if you wouldn't go back to eat what you had,
Yeah.
or it's
Yeah.
like they still
Disney's the
make your
reason why I
experience.
went into hospitality. So
That's super cool.
That's awesome.
You're kind of right about that. Like Mama Melrose, in Hollywood Studios. You love going there.
I love going there.
I don't.
I love it.
I think it's just
I love
okay.
Mama Melrose.
And I've had one of the most adequate and just okay old fashions I've ever had in my entire life at that place. But they're really nice and they treat you nice, and you get to, be in an Italian restaurant with the magic band on.
And it's really pretty inside.
Yeah, right.
We've had great waiters
service,
and waitresses, right?
And like they're nice people, and that is a big part of the pull. And you and like at least in a Disney place, you know what you're gonna get. So you're not gonna be in this endless cycle of pain of like having to hope that the food quality is going to be good and that it's going to be something that you actually enjoy and look back on, and all that. Canada. So Brittany, can you tell us a little bit about, like, just because since we have you, can you tell us a little bit about like what you did in Epcot when you were in the college program?
So I was on the other side of the park. So I wasn't in the World Showcase itself. I was in the Living with the Seas kind of pavilion.
Yeah.
So there's a restaurant over there called Coral Reef. We love. It's a great spot. It is actually it butts up to that aquarium that they have within the pavilion. So one of the walls is literally the aquarium. Like you had like Luna the stingray that would just hang out. Sometimes Mickey would wear scuba gear and come say hi to the guests.
Cool.
So it's a cool little spot down there. But one of the best like experiences for me working in that specific pavilion was kind of the way that backstage worked. And like where the cast members would park. I would have to take like a literal bus from where I parked around the entire World Showcase backstage. And we would pick all the different cast members up from each of the pavilions, which was my favorite thing to do because I would talk to them on the bus and like either on the beginning of the day or at the end of the day. So I mean, that was my favorite part. But
that's awesome. I've never eaten at Coral Reef, but the only thing I think of when I think of it is one, the Scuba Mickey, but the Disney World episode of Boy Meets World.
Exactly.
Every
time.
Corey is
every time
to get to Topanga. And
every time someone walked in that restaurant. Every time.
So Paige is like a huge talking about the show on the show. Paige is a huge fan of Pod Meets World, and she listens to it like all the time.
It's my favorite podcast.
And she talks
ours, of course.
Well, it's my show is not even in my top 10. She talks to me about Pod Meets World all the time, and she's like, we need to get them on the show to talk to them about their episode.
Oh, that'd be fun.
Yeah, wait till the writer strikes are over, or the SAG strikes. SAG, SAG. What do you say? SAG or SAG?
SAG.
I haven't really been paying as much attention as I should be. I'm
SAG.
a terrible union supporter. Pay people what they're worth, but yeah, she really wants to like get them on the show to talk about
their Disney episode.
Yeah, which has my wheels turning, and we'll talk about it. But my wheels are spinning on something.
Okay,
I got something cooking.
Okay,
as it were. So
yes, that's all I know about Coral Reef. I've never eaten there.
Can I be honest with you?
Yeah, it's definitely do it.
I actually didn't really know. Like, I guess I didn't really know it was there.
Really?
Not a lot of people do.
We never have eaten there before.
Yeah,
and it's never on my radar ever. Even though like I was recently on the Nemo ride, and I went to the little aquarium area, and all that.
You've seen the Scuba Mickey though, right?
I have, and I never really knew where he was.
That's right.
And I guess that when Corey was in that good tank, I just never really put it all together. Yeah. It's so funny because I was listening to an episode of Podcast The Ride a couple days ago, and they were talking about the fountain that Corey and Topanga meet at when she leaves, and how that was like actually built for a very specific show in Hollywood in Epcot. I'm gonna pull it up so I can like remember what it was called. It's crazy. It was called Clicking My Tongue, because I don't remember the name of it. Let me find it real quick. Hang on. I'll sing my song until I find it. Podcast The Ride is a good show. It's not better than ours, but it's still pretty good. Splashtacular was the show that happened. It was like a 7-month run in Epcot, and they built the colorful fountain around it. So were they like, do they smoochy kiss in that episode there?
At the end, I think that's when they reunite because he finally catches up to her, and she's like, stop chasing me.
And he's like, I'll never stop chasing you because I'm the most annoying character on the show. I sent Smoochie a kiss because we have a 1-year-old and Bluey's kind of like the whole thing.
Yep.
We love Bluey.
I know you have nieces and nephews and such, so they're probably
Yeah.
you're probably all in on
Every
it.
time.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's
You get it.
awesome.
You get it.
Ugga Mugga, Daniel Tiger.
What did you just say?
We haven't watched Daniel.
Does she watch
Tiger.
Daniel Tiger?
We
No.
haven't. No.
Oh. It's kind of like Bluey's smooches, but they call it Ugga Mugga.
Oh,
Ugga.
cute.
It's so sweet.
Daniel the Tiger. Is that on Disney Plus?
No, but it's on like Prime if you guys have Amazon Prime.
We do.
I
Video.
do. I unfortunately have like everything. I have so many little eels connected to me. It's awful.
We have
Same.
all the streaming 'cause
All
we
of the
have no
above.
cable.
Okay, so I'm asking every one of our guests this on the show. It's gonna be like what color is your toothbrush? Toothbrush.
Words.
I know. I'm like the worst. It's like one of those what color is your toothbrush icebreaker questions.
Mhm.
What's your avatar on Disney Plus?
Yoda.
Yoda.
Or Kylo Ren. I forget which one. It's one of the two.
That's cool.
Both good choices.
Mine is Mando,
Yes.
and it has been for a very long time.
Solid
Mine is
choice.
Mum.
Paige just
Bluey.
changed her to Mom.
Once I
Good
saw
choice.
the Bluey characters were on there, I was like, gotta be Mum.
Got to do it.
Love it.
Either that or the X-Men.
Yeah.
Which is like
Yeah.
super weird. I mean, I don't know what else there is to say about Canada. I feel like that kind of
Well, I have two more questions for
Yeah.
Brittany about the
it
Canada
away.
Pavilion.
Yeah.
One, so we talked about, the there's only 2 shops, right?
Mhm.
not that many. Yeah, it's
And
Like
sparse.
one and a
the
half,
one-
I feel like I call it.
One restaurant and a couple little stands and not a whole lot else going for it. But
I really like that photo spot though.
the photo spot is beautiful.
Up by the waterfalls. Is that
Yeah,
the
it
one
has
you're
like
talking about?
the different like totem emblems on there that how you can like
Yes.
take the beak and kind of open it and whatnot. It's fun.
Yeah, it's cool.
So I love spending time in Canada, but I know that some people blow through it. We talked about that. Is there anything that you would add, change, or take away from the Canada Pavilion? Like if you could come up with an idea, would you add a new shop, a new QSR, a new restaurant, an attraction that's different?
I think D, all of the above. I think kind of going to what Stephen was talking about earlier, like I think they should do like the French, like really dive into like the French Canada of it. And I'm also just a big ice hockey girly, so I think they should have kind of incorporate that somehow.
That'd be awesome.
Like, I
Are you
mean,
a
they have
Capitals
like how
fan?
many ice hockey? Yeah, you do see the flag in the background.
I
Yeah,
did. Yeah. I'm not a Capitals. I'm a San Jose Sharks fan, and they just traded
Oh,
Erik
okay.
Karlsson today, so I'm like grieving.
So
I'm so
fun
sorry
fact,
about that.
fun fact for both you and our listeners, I've only ever been to 2 hockey games. One was with Steven and one was with Brittany.
Yeah.
So
Oh, that's
you guys
funny.
are the only people
What was the first one?
I've ever been to
Well,
hockey.
who'd you go see for the first time?
With Brittany, we went to the Hershey Bears.
Go Bears!
Yes, we
I can
did.
give I can give you behind the
They
Hershey
just
Bears. They're
won the
clutch.
cup. Heyo.
I saw you.
I know they're killer. You were like all up on it, and then we saw the Sharks get destroyed by the Capitals in like 2016 and
Yes.
2017. Anyway, sorry, carry on. I just had to interject.
So yes, ice hockey. I
Yeah.
would love to see that.
We love it. Absolutely. Just something, because I mean that's obviously a big part of their life up there.
Mhm.
But I think definitely another food option, whether it be probably a QSR, just because they're honestly probably not enough space in there. I mean,
Maybe-
that can be say the same for every pavilion in Epcot to be expanded. There's
Mhm.
just so much opportunity because update and all that fun stuff.
They could put a Tim Hortons up there.
There you go.
I feel like
That'd do the job.
Starbucks and Joffrey's wouldn't be happy with that.
But
No.
they can whatever. I was at the store. Where was I? I was somewhere, and I heard this guy talking about how there is not a single Starbucks in Massachusetts because they like Dunkin' better. And I'm like, you're a liar. That is like implicitly untrue.
So to say, have we not been to
Yeah,
a
that's
Starbucks
it's.
in
I just was like,
Massachusetts?
I almost took out my head. I was at Trader Joe's.
Oh, okay.
People at Trader Joe's don't know. And I was shopping, and I like almost took out my headphones because I listen to podcasts when I shop like a monster. And I was like, that's entirely untrue. There's definitely a Starbucks somewhere in the great state of Massachusetts.
It's hilarious.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's anything I would add. I can't think of any Canada Disney IP.
Can't either, to be honest with you. Justin Bieber?
He is definitely not Disney IP.
Oh, Turning Red. That just came out. That was a do you think that was like a double entendre for like the red panda and the red maple leaf? Do you suppose?
I
They could definitely do something with that. And it's funny because you said like a Canadian boy band, or they had like Boys for Life or whatever the band was called.
yes, from Turning Red.
Yeah, it was a fun
my
little. That was a
gosh.
fun little movie.
That
I don't
would,
think I've ever seen that one yet.
yeah, it just came out this last year.
Let me put
right?
it this way: by fun little movie, I mean it was one of Pixar's harder flops, but it also like went straight to Disney Plus.
Right, it
So
was straight-
Oh, okay.
It was a fun movie, I'd say, for like target audience 10-year-old girl.
yeah, I don't think
Oh,
boys would
okay.
really like it very much.
I think some boys would like it. Like they might think some of it's funny, but
It's definitely like I don't want to be normative, but it's definitely more of like a little girls movie.
yeah,
I would
I
say.
think the characters are
Mhm.
pretty fun because they're a lot different than a lot of Disney characters you see. They're more like relatable, awkward
Mhm.
preteen girls.
It also like kind of sort of blurs the line between like traditional, but like modern 3D animation and like a little anime. It's very it's fun.
Yeah.
But that is it definitely a Disney film that's Canadian.
Yeah, they could do, I don't know. They could definitely do a meet and greet with the panda, though. That'd be really cute.
Have they done that
Oh, that'd be
before?
fun.
Is Brother Bear up in Canada?
I don't think so.
Doesn't it seem like it would be?
I feel like Brother Bear happens in a western state. Alaska.
Alaska's kind of Canada.
It's closer to Canada than us.
It's
So
literally touching Canada. It's like,
yeah,
yeah.
they could attach a little Brother Bear to the back
Oh,
of the
that's
Canada Pavilion.
fun.
I,
Oh, that's one of my
yeah.
favorite movies.
So fun.
Did you say that's your favorite movie?
One of them, yeah.
Wow, I've
Oh,
never
okay.
seen it.
You ever seen Brother Bear? It's so good.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I just
Koga.
never saw it. Just never saw it.
It's cute.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else like Canadian wise for.
I think those would
Canada.
both fit into the way that Canada is now, with it being very
Mhm.
woodsy and
Yeah.
all of that. But I agree with you, Brittany. I think they should add in more French Canada.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
liked the idea that you mentioned that they had talked about doing half French Canada, half of like the
Right. And it's
English-speaking
really weird
Canada.
too, because it's just like this very specific sliver of Canada
Mhm.
that's represented.
I know.
Like even like in Vancouver, like near Banff National Park, like it's just I mean, you could only do so much.
Right.
I mean, the entire country of France is like represented by the Eiffel Tower, so I guess there's that, but I just feel like there's a little bit more effort that could be put into it.
But yeah.
But who am I to say? I'm not Canadian.
Right.
So, cool. Well, I think that's pretty much. I mean, I don't really have anything else to say about our neighbors up north.
Yeah.
Brittany,
Do you
America's
have anything
hat.
else to add? A favorite memory from the Canada Pavilion? Your favorite thing you've ever eaten there? Any other comments?
I mean, you can't go
or-
wrong with a cronut.
Oh, you're
The
right.
croissant
You
donut. You can't go
cannot.
wrong. Can't go
I've
wrong.
never had that either.
Oh, it's so good.
Sounds
Wow.
great. The word cronut sounds nasty, but the idea of it sounds delicious.
Okay. Well, we'll try it next time.
Cool.
There you go. There you go.
All right. Well, that is going to do it for us. Thank you, everyone, so much for listening. We really appreciate it. Remember, you can find us online at theparksacademypod.com, as well as the Parks Academy on Instagram. Thank you so much to our two amazing sponsors, Deep Cut and Neo Sabers. You can find out all about them on our show notes. And on both sites, you can get 10% off your first order using the code TPA10 at checkout. If you are so inclined, we would really appreciate a kind review and rating on Apple Podcast or wherever you get your podcast. And next week, we're going to be on with our friend Christina talking about the United Kingdom. Can't wait for that. It's going to be a fun episode. Lots to go over of that nice big country. Paige is laughing at me. All right, guys, we will catch you next time.